it was dark and the tears hit and that redemption part, she goes, man, this is really weird. What am I feeling? And she goes, that's God. Like, God knows. God exists. She goes, I don't know about that. It's just a good show. I'm just emotional. And they binge watched all 3 seasons that night. And at the end of the night, her sister was so confused of the world that she thought the world was. And now she's starting to see the world differently. And she couldn't sleep, wrestled and wrestled and wrestled. And then the next morning she goes, you know what? I'm gonna have to believe that there's a God. And then she asked her, would you watch that show with me again, The Chosen? And she goes, yeah. So they watched it again. They binge watched it twice. And she goes, my sister gave her life and her heart to Jesus. She was once an atheist in a dark place, and then she was transformed. And the most beautiful thing ever was her mom watched that happen and says, what just happened to my daughter that was cynical and dark, and now she's a completely different person? I go, I'm all in. I'm all in. I don't even care if I hold the light. I'm all in. And I went to him, I says, Dallas, like, this is a dark episode, man. Like, do we want to start the show out that way? And he looked at me and he goes, Derral, I guess you don't get it yet. That's the show. We're in darkness and you're one way and you can come completely different. And what's in between is Jesus.
Today, our guest is Derral Eves. Man, this is such a good podcast. He is the co-founder of The Chosen, which now has over 780 million views on its episodes, which is almost 1 billion. His goal is actually to reach 1 billion people by sharing the gospel through The Chosen. And in this episode, we talk about marriage. We talk about being a father and what that means. We talk about how he scaled multiple different organizations. It has a ton of wisdom, a ton of insight, and I highly recommend waiting until the end because it gets very real. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing high quality guests like Derral. Derral, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. We're both going, well, separately, but we're going to the fight tonight.
Yeah.
Tyson, Paul fight should be an interesting. I saw Tyson slap Paul. You see that little clip of him slap?
Yeah. I don't hype it up a little bit.
Totally. I know. It's kind of it's a little cheesy sometimes, some of the hype, but hopefully there's some good action.
You never know. You never know with these things. You just never know, but it's going to be a good night. I think so.
Yeah, I'm excited. So you are, man, one of the most intriguing things. Well, you're a big YouTuber. You know the space very well. You're an entrepreneur. You were just a family man of God, killing it on so many levels. And what's so interesting is your involvement with The Chosen. I'd love to start out with that. So you're the executive producer of The Chosen. Is it one of the executive producers? Or?
So I'm a co-founder. So I actually started it with Dallas Jenkins 7 years ago.
Wow.
So it's a pretty interesting story. So like my whole life is I've really loved content. I think content can impact families and individuals to kind of lead them and steer them down different paths. And for me, at a very young age, I was probably, 8, 9 years old, and I just got more hyper aware of what really great content is, and it just moves people. And so I always wanted to be, around that. I kind of gravitated more to commercials because like they're funny, they're engaging. I've always really wanted to do Super Bowl commercials. And that kind of led to a passionate love of just marketing and advertising, understand human nature, understand people. And then also noticing that there's actually patterns of predictability with human nature. And that kind of really developed into a real love of how can I get people to take action and how can I get people to do things, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's just like that's what marketing is. That's what advertising is, right?
That's what good advertising is, right? Not really just something interesting, but actually where you can move somebody to action. Yep.
So that led to a couple papers that kind of opened my eyes because I was really obsessed with content, but I was probably a senior in high school. Excuse me. And I got my hands on a paper that this guy wrote back in 1946. It's called, his name's Abraham Maslow. So the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm just telling you, like everything clicked for me in so many different ways of like pretty much human motivation. And I started to see that as more of a pattern. And so that kind of led to, after high school, I kind of put my life on hold and was a missionary in the middle of South America for a couple of years. And that was really good for me personally, because I really discovered how great God is and where true happiness really is. And so I came back, and I know this is a long story for getting to the chosen, but it's just really important for context. So I came back and I was locked in. I just wanted to go make Super Bowl commercials. That's all I cared about. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do it. Got a 4-year degree in 2.5 years. And the goal was going to a place where I could get an easy job into an ad agency that does these Super Bowl commercials. And anyway, got some really good news, because like some of the professors, they were kind of retired and just wanted to stay a little busy, and so they were teaching, and it was just really great. Well, I had 2 job offers from 2 ad agencies, and these ad agencies are some of the biggest in the world, and they did about 30% collectively of all Super Bowl ads. So I'm like, okay, that's great. And I actually got 2 job offers. Like, this is like so great. And here I am, like about ready to embark on a journey. And I'm like, this is going to be so much fun. So I go home and I says, babe, you're never going to believe it. I was married for a couple years, You're never going to believe it. Got a job offer. They want me to fly out to LA, and then I got to go to Chicago and go meet with the team. And, we're going to do it. We're going for it. She goes, oh, that's great. I got good news too. And I'm like, what's that? Found out that I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is great timing, because we always wanted to have family.
Yeah.
But that was the first time reality actually hit me really in depth. And it was like, okay, I actually have to make a choice now. Like, what do I want the world to be for my child? That was the first time I've ever thought about it. I know I come from a big family, but I never thought it's great to have kids, but I just never saw it through the lens of what's the world going to be like for her. And so I wanted her to have an amazing experience. I wanted her to grow up by grandma and grandpa and have her cousins as her best friends. And I'm like, I wanted that more, and so I forewent, going and doing that. And I just started my own company. I started my own agency right out of high school, or I'm sorry, college, and made that path. And so this does get to the chosen really specifically, but I want to kind of explain the why behind it.
Sure.
That right there is when I realized I wanted something better for my daughter. And it wasn't necessarily my thoughts, but it was for the thoughts of what would be best for her and the family. Mm-hmm. And so when I actually submitted, that was a big deal, because it was like literally my dreams. It's all I consumed and wanted to be a part of it. And so as life started to come about, I'm like, I just basically put that, the desire on the shelf.
It's interesting, because that's so rare. Right. People, men specifically, are willing to sacrifice everything in the pursuit of success, like family all day long. Like I see people that are traveling around the country for work every week, and they see their kids maybe once a month, but they're committed to providing for the family. Yeah. Right. But we're being willing to sacrifice. We have something called the 4 pillars: faith, family, fitness, and finances.
That's right.
Right. And so faith and family. So many people, they'll put the finances, they bump it all the way to the top. They make that their number one priority. And it's a disordered life. It creates a disordered life and a lot of chaos in the midst of that. And so you chose, it's an interesting moment. You chose in that moment, hey, I'm going to put family above my career and find a way to do both, to find a way to serve. Yeah.
It's actually, because that's where I could get the most happiness. I mean, outside of my relationship with God, it's just like my family. I just is really close second. It's just more amazing. That's where I want it to be. But so anyway, got to it. I just basically said, hey, you know what? This journey of I'm doing ads, I'm doing marketing, I do what I love, but I won't do these big spectacle ads that's going to go on the Super Bowl where everyone in the world's going to see. And so. Big moment happened. Business is thriving. We're expanding. I'm managing like 56 employees, and I'm a pretty frugal person. So I'm like, I mean, we're expanding more people, bring them on. I got to get some desks. So instead of going to, Office Depot or whatever, I'd go on Craigslist and try to find a desk. And right then and there, something grabbed my attention. And it was an ad on Craigslist that said, hey, get 100 people to sign up on this new website, and you'll actually get an iPod. Now, at the time, the iPods are about the size of a brick.
Yep. Oh,
like if you throw it, it'd probably kill someone, that weight.
For sure.
But Steve Jobs just introduced the iPod Nano. And so you're going to get the iPod Nano. I'm like, I'm all in. Like, I want that. And I went to this site. It was called YouTube. And this is October of 2005. And that was a really powerful moment for me. It was like, there's only a couple times leading up to it where it gives me a lot of clarity. Like I don't know if you've ever had this where the world kind of slows down. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. And I felt like this is the right path that I need to be on. And so I noticed that this website, you could embed videos on other websites. There's like these things called webmaster tools. And so I clicked on that. I'm like, this is super cool. So the first thing that went through my mind is I can literally upsell every one of my clients to put a video on their website. And I get to make commercials. Like I really wanted to make commercials so bad. Right. And I'm like, I can do it. And it can, be a lead generator. It can do this whole thing. And the moment actually was so amazing because like that was October 2005, did a full year. And the next year Google bought YouTube for 1.65 billion. Mm-hmm. And then going into 2007, I just noticed that all my videos that I made 865 videos for my clients. They were all, number 1, number 2, number 3 in search, for my clients. And I'm like, man, I'm fighting to get all these websites ranked.
Yeah.
And I did nothing outside of making a really great video, putting a title, and I don't need to do anything. Like Google wants to promote that. And the phone was ringing. It was probably the most successful. But this is where I think this will give you clarity of kind of where the type of person I am. I saw the opportunity. I knew what it was. And I basically sold off the portion that I didn't feel like was taking me in the direction where I wanted to go. I'm like literally, hey, it's great. I like to do SEO and I like to do website design and I like to do the local marketing, but I'm going all in on doing ads, getting the phone to ring.
It's interesting. Yeah, I see. I feel when I was growing I had a water and fire restoration company. What started as a carpet cleaning company. And so as we were growing the carpet cleaning company, I realized there was way more money and opportunity in the restoration in the construction side. So I literally closed down the carpet cleaning and went all in. Yeah. And so it's almost like the people that I've seen that have created significant success in their lives, they follow the money. They follow the opportunity. So if they're working on something, but there's a bigger opportunity, they'll have a hard shift and go all in on something else and produce a lot more results.
And some people do it without doing the hard shift. They're like, oh, I can take it along with me, but you can't do everything. It's like you got to be hyper fixated and focused in on it. And so that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, hey, I get it. I see the opportunity. I seen the benefit. No one was doing it, and I'm like, this could be my jam. But in 2007, this is where it really changed because I think all of us are put on earth for a reason. And I know it's just to have happiness and, see God's amazing, power and ability, and you're developing that relationship with him. But I do believe that we have a purpose to extend his kingdom.
Yep.
We extend his kingdom in our personal lives, in our family, and I really do believe the world. Mm-hmm. And this is the moment where it was. So it's funny that you said service business. So I could get the phone to ring, and I get hyper fixated on individuals, like very specific customers, right? And so I've done doctors, dentists, lawyers, like anyone that had the big money. I'm like, I'm going after them first because it's like a no-brainer for them. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm going to go into a new vertical, and I really need to understand this audience. And so I was like kind of looking, and I was a part of the Rotary Club, and I went to one of my friends, and he's a guy that I've known for a while, and he was really trying to get his pest control business off the ground. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in pest control. I live in a desert. Our cockroaches are like the size of like a car. You know what I'm saying? like I get this. And so I'm like, hey, would you be willing that I could just use you, just kind of use you as a case study, and then I can kind of replicate that worldwide. I said, sure. So we made some videos, got them ranked, got the phone ringing. We were doing a lot of call tracking type stuff where it was, really cutting edge. And in 2 months, we quintupled his business. Like, he was trying to get technicians in and trained and everything. Just the phone wasn't stopping ringing. He's like, dude, what am I going to do? Am I going to just refer it to people? I can't, because I want to build my business. So he actually went out and started to spray, as a technician, and there's just no other way to do it. He says, okay, I'll just take the biggest clients, the ones that pull in the biggest money. So we went into this piano store, and the owner of the piano store came out and says, man, really saw your video the other day. It was like ranked up on Google, so pretty amazing. I'm glad that you're coming in. Who did that? There's this guy named Derral. You just got to know him. He's like just a genius when it comes to this YouTube thing and whatever. He goes, well, I've been trying to sell pianos on YouTube. And he goes, serious? You should actually get a hold of him. And so I went over and got introduced to him, and I actually saw one of his ads, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, because I was really trying to see what's happening, and anyway, I says, hey, so like I saw your video that you did. I could tell that you probably spent like $15K. And he's like, yeah, it was closer to 18, on it. I'm like, okay, that's great. How much does a grand piano cost? And he goes, well, you can get anything between, 40,000 up to 120,000, and above. And I go, like, how many sales did you get from it? He's like, 0. And I'm like, wow, but the video is so good. And I saw it differently. I'm really good at identifying great content, and then people that have kind of unique skills to make that content, right? And I turned to him and I says, this is some of the most amazing, compelling, video that I've seen. And it's not like an ad. It didn't feel like an ad to me, because it was just more of a music video. And he goes, honestly, if I could just make music videos on YouTube, that's all I want to do. Like seriously, I wouldn't even, my heart's more here. I don't want to, pedal pianos, right? And so over the next 18 months, me and the 5 guys that were making those videos was able to generate over 1.8 million subscribers and about 400 million video views. Yeah. And they're called the Piano Guys. And it's where they kind of put pianos on tall mountains, and they play, classical, but then they bring in pop culture. It was just epic at the time. And I'll tell you what, that's where I can pretty much say I got my clarity of what I'm meant to do, like more than anything else. And it was like, oh, okay, the world, it's so vast. And I didn't want to actually make Super Bowl commercials. I realized I wanted to make content that people would actually talk about, that it'd impact them so much that they would turn to someone and say, you got to check out this video or this ad or this series. And I realized that I wasn't the content creator. I was the content marketer. I was the person that could develop audiences. I understand people of how they react, and I know the triggers of the shareable moments that they would be more inclined to share with people. And then I'm really good at the marketing business side to get them where they feel like they're a part of something bigger. And so it's not like a transaction where they take their credit card, but it's more where they feel like they belong to something, and it's more about community. And so I got really good, because like those 5 guys, what they were able to do when we came on, we actually did a Kickstarter before Kickstarter was even there. And we're like, hey, you can become a founder of the Piano Guys and go through this whole thing. And I mean, they made millions and millions of dollars. They were able to quit their jobs and do that full time because people wanted to get behind something. They loved what they were doing and went from there. And so for me, that's kind of where I found what I'm really good at. And I don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of aspects that I'm good at, but I got more obsessed with audience development than anything else. Yeah. So that
on that note, before you leave from that, we get into the chosen side. What are some of the key aspects of audience development? So Mark,
simple. It's people. Literally, it's people. It's people.
And this is relevant, right, for people that have online businesses or people that are in the service. It's relevant for any business. Like
it works for pest control companies.
Yep,
it works for restoration companies. It's like what is going to motivate people to not only click but to watch, but to take action. Okay, what is that action? I can guarantee you. The reason why people are going to the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight is they want to share that with people. They want to see something, and guaranteed they're going to take a picture and share it with the freaking world. Okay. And their favorite person's going to win or whatever. Right. And they're going to flex it, and they're that whole thing. And they're spending, they put their life on hold to come to this event. And how did that happen? Is human motivation. Everyone has a different type of motivation. Some want to go as friends or as a team. For me, I just want to see Jake Paul get hit in the face like Mike Tyson. Come on. No, don't get me wrong. I think the Paul brothers are some of the best marketers. They are very good. They're really great hype. Yeah. But I believe Mike Tyson's going to hit him so hard that he's going to go do WWE with his brother.
Switch out of boxing.
They'll make a lot more money by having a tag team over there. But anyway, so getting to it, it's like the audience development portion of it. It's just about people. It's about understanding them at a deeper level of what really consumes them. So you talked about your 4 pillars, right? So believe it or not, each pillar is not going to resonate with everyone, but there might be a pillar or two that really just speaks to someone where like, man, I'm really falling short in family. I got finances, I got this other stuff, but I feel hollow. Like I have no joy. And it's because they're out of balance. They're more focused in on things in the world than the things that will actually bring them true happiness, right? Yeah. And that's why you have those 4 pillars. And so it's like, what is the content that connects? Well, the best content that connects is one that speaks to them where like, oh my gosh, this is so much value. I need to share it. And who are they thinking about? They're thinking about their friends that are experiencing the same issue or that they've been telling them, no, that's what you need. And so they're sharing that content. And then that right there is a feedback loop because those individuals will go and watch that content and then they go and share with 4 or 5 different people. And before you know it, it's what we call going viral, right? And the virality is just more human nature of wanting to what we always do. We like to share what we're into. Yeah. Like we do. There's just not, we have to do it because we want to connect with people that get it. Like I was in the Uber coming over here. It was a very long drive, by the way. I didn't know it was this far, but it was great. Yeah. And I saw this meme. I love memes. I think memes are the most amazing way to communicate. Like it's just amazing. And I had to share it with 3 people. Like I had to. The meme was about Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars buff, Star Wars fan, right? Yep. And the meme was a sign that said you can only be called Annie so many times before you go psycho.
That's good.
And it was like Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry, Anakin Skywalker, right? It's just like that. Is where you snap, right? And I said it. And who did I send it to? To my kids that love Star Wars just as much as I do, or even more, right? And that created a moment. Now, guaranteed, if they found enough value after that laugh, because they did laugh on it, they probably send it to somebody else. And so that's kind of where that connection comes from. So for me, go ahead.
Another question. I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take a couple notes on this because this is critical. So, what would you say makes something shareable? So to the point where people like feel comfortable or actually feel not even obligated, but they just want, like, what are there any specific factors that need to be in place for something to be shareable, like where people have to share? I have to share this.
So just it's very simple. So it's like, what are you actually passionate about and how is it relevant to your life? That's it. If you really look at it, what are you passionate about? Where is it relevant? And it could be like, hey, it's education, inspiration, entertainment. There's several different ways to do it. But the reality is, it's just that one little moment that just hits you to the core to say, oh, I never thought about that. Or, oh my gosh, that was so funny. Or it just spoke to you on a very deep level. Or it reminded me of so-and-so, that relatability is by far the most important thing, is that you got to relate to the person or open their eyes in a way where like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Because like I remember seeing content and it was so funny, so amazing, so great that I had to share it. And I remember, 30, 40 years ago, and it's just like, I remember what those moments are. Yeah. And I think we can all do that too. It's like those moments that you're like, oh, that I just didn't see that coming. It could be in a juxtaposition or whatever. But it all comes back down to something that actually speaks to you in a way that gives you value or validates. This is an important one. Validates what you believe. And how many times have you actually heard a sermon and you read the same scripture, that a pastor probably was giving, right? But that sermon just hits just clearer than day, right? You're just like, oh my gosh, I read that 1,000 times. I never thought about it like that, and sometimes it's just the right moment. And that's that relevancy in your life where it just speaks to you even deeper.
Great.
And so
love it.
Going back to this, so like I found my jam. I knew this is what I needed to do. I went on a journey and I made a vow. And I think this is important for anyone that wants to succeed. You need to be all in and you need to make a vow, like you need to make, I think God is a God of covenants. I mean, we read through all the Bible, right? It's like covenant with God, covenant with God, covenant with God. Okay, great. No. And that's what I did is I made a vow, I made a covenant that I wanted to improve the world through content. I wanted to, when people actually saw, a piece of content, that it would bring value into the world. It'd be net positive. It'd bring what I like to talk about is light, more light into the world. And I think, when you're actually focused in on creating content that brings net positive or light into the world, and I don't mean light always with just the Bible or anything. There's truth out there. There's like I believe that we need to laugh. Yep. There's certain things that people would find crass. I think it's funny. I think there's times that it can kind of de-escalate some mental, instability, so we need kind of that balance. And so for me, I just went on a quest and I said, I'd vow to always be hyper aware of that. And so the stages that's next is really important because I'm one that's very strategic. I'm not one that will just kind of lay back and say, okay, I'm going to just do it for me. No. If I'm going to do it, I want to inspire others to do it too. So I vowed I would make that type of content or support that type of content that's being made. And so the second thing is I need to become an expert. Like I'm going to be the go-to guy when it comes to YouTube. So anything that YouTube offered training wise, I was consuming at a deep level. Now, keep in mind, I have a weird mind. I can see patterns. I understand algorithms. Like that's how I was like really doing search engine optimization. Spam when it started out, you just spam everything, right? Yep, but then it got very strategic because you're dealing with, AI and stuff like that. I mean, way back even then. And so for me, I get it. I understand it. And then when YouTube would put out something, I just wanted to be the foreknown expert because that would just help further my goal. So I became obsessed. I read everything, every paper, any type of white paper I could get on by any YouTube or Google engineer. I was reading it, trying to understand it, because I found that, and this is like an earlier aha moment. I really, when I was doing search engine optimization as an occupation, I really hated one guy. His name's Matt Cutts, because he made my life so miserable. And Matt was the anti-spam czar at Google. Oh, yeah, so anytime that you get something up, it was like all 1,000 websites would just fall out of ranking. And I'm like, all these customers like, hey, what happened, man? I'm paying you a lot of money. Why is this not on the front page of Google like you promised, right? Yep. So I had this whole, I even had a little dartboard, what I'm saying? Like I just with his face on it or what? With his face on it and just like, hey, Matt Cutts. But it was the moment, and this is pre YouTube, but it was the moment that I realized, why don't I figure out what they want and I give them what they want instead of trying to find some exploit or hack.
Work around it. Yeah, I was deep in the SEO space around that time too. Yeah. So there's a way to go with the flow or fight it the entire time.
And when I
So you chose to master it. You chose to master
if I understand their intentionality of where they're going, and I'm like 2 steps ahead of them, then I'll always be up. And I never had a problem ever since then. So I decided to do the same thing with YouTube. I want to be the go-to guy when it comes to this. And so it was interesting.
And on that note, I think most people never master anything. That's what I found to be true, right? There's like you talk about mastery. I think it's so critical. I think people diversify so much with their skill sets and what they're working on that they never truly go all in with any one vertical of marketing or vertical of a specific skill set or a trade. They get decent at it, but they never truly get obsessed enough to really master it. And so it's the guys that go and master things that they just have a level up on other people.
I'll tell you, I got a blessing and a curse. The blessing is I get hyper fixated on a problem. Yeah. And when I really identify what the problem is, I can't let it go. I literally can't let it go. And it's been a very big blessing, and God's used it in ways to further some of the things that he wants to do, through me or through others, but I get hyper fixated on problems. And so that was a problem. Like, how do I actually become that expert? And then I lose track of times. Like sometimes I might work for 20 hours and realize, wait, where did everything go? I just just so locked in. And so anyway, wanted to master it, and was able to do a really big campaign because this new company was coming out and they wanted to do something disruptive, and they saw some stuff that I was doing, and they're like, oh, let's do whatever. And so I did this thing for Red Bull events, and it was like an idea that I had with GoPro, and it was kind of a collaboration type thing, and it kind of opened up the world. Like I got from small town USA, Utah, I got to work with the biggest companies in the world, and I mean we're talking like Red Bull, GoPro, Amazon, Nintendo. Epic Games. I mean, the list goes on, and these are the ones that had big budgets, right? But my favorite one was when Google actually hired me, and they're still a client today, but they hired me to help them do their YouTube strategy. I'm like, dude, you guys own YouTube. Like, you could do anything. But it was like, I could give them a fresh perspective. And then 2, people come and go in an organization. I've been there since, not day one, but October of 2005. And was all in. I understand every little thing. I understand, kind of their intentions of it. And then 2, I worked closely with Google or YouTube as well. But the key was I just wanted to be that expert. So when they had YouTube certification, and this is a really good point for people. Like I noticed that they had a certification come up, and this is like a long time ago. And I was speaking at an event, and I was actually doing a case study about the piano guys because they're like, hey, come whatever. I was in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And so I was speaking at this event, and there was a guy like right after me. It was like the person that I needed to talk to get approved to be a part of this YouTube certification. So I did this huge presentation, just standing just everybody was like excited about it. They're seeing the possibility of what the future is, making money with YouTube and this whole thing. And then he gets up, and then after it, we were kind of in the green room talking. I'm like, hey man, it'd be really great, that I could do your YouTube certification program. And he goes, dude, so sorry, man, but that's like a internal thing only, and with our biggest clients. Because I'm a nobody. I was just a consultant, right? They're like, oh, we can't have that happen, right? And I'm like, okay, man, just to let you know, I don't give up. So if you mind if you give me an email or whatever, I promise I won't harass you, but I'll be consistent when it opens up. He goes, no, man, sorry. I can't give out my corporate stuff. I'm like, oh, man. Well, here's the thing with me. I don't give up. Like, it's just like, it's going to happen. So the next week I was in LA giving the same presentation. Okay. And the guy comes up. There's a guy that comes up. I knew exactly who this guy was, right? Comes up and says, man, that was a really great presentation. We need more people like you that's evangelizing YouTube. And I says, man, I've been trying to evangelize YouTube. I really want to know the innards of YouTube, you know, and there's this whole certification you guys are doing. He goes, I know the exact person you need to talk to. And he pulls him over and he says, hey, do you know this guy? I'm like, yeah, I know this guy. You know, like we just met this last week. It was the guy that told me no, right? He goes, get him certified. Because he was the boss and he's now the CEO of YouTube right now. But it was like, it was so epic because it's like, once you have those opportunities and you're aware, and it's not that the certification did anything for me, but it gave me what YouTube thought was important, what they wanted you to be certified on, right? Yeah. Like it was nothing for me to pass the test. Like I knew a lot that was going on, but there was a lot that I didn't know. I didn't understand some other sides of other complexities because I never experienced it. But the point that I want to get at is it's like when you really focus and fixate on trying to be the best that you possibly can, you need to absorb and surround yourself by people that will help you get you where you need to be. Mm-hmm. So that was key. Now I really wanted to learn from people. And so at this time, the best way to learn from people is to give them an opportunity to do it. So you can do consulting or you can do whatever, but the people that I want to learn from didn't do consulting. It's like some of the smartest people in the world, they're actually just implementing and they don't have a platform to do it. So I'm like, how do I actually do this? And so I was speaking a lot at different conferences. I'd keynote or whatever. And I felt like there was never one for me. There wasn't one around this new opportunity of YouTube. I mean, they had VidCon, which was kind of a fan creator experience where fans go see creators, but all my friends that were creators, they were kind of going out of business because they were bad business people, you know, and it's just like here they didn't see the true opportunity, which is you could create yourself as a brand and become an entertainment company and literally start bankrolling, right? They just thought, oh, I'm just a YouTuber. I just upload videos, you know? And so instead of complaining, I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my own conference and I'm going to invite the people that I want to learn from. I'm going to put them on stage. And 11 years ago, that's what I did. And I just brought people in that I wanted to learn and we shared, and that became a tradition every year. And so fast forward, these are movers and shakers in the industry. These are the people that are the biggest. It's just huge, right? These are the ones that are people like me behind the scenes, and some of them are creators that get the business opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's not for people that want to be popular. It's people that want to actually make a big difference. So the culture of this conference, it's called Vid Summit, but the culture of this conference is about seeing the opportunity and actually making a bigger impact. It's about giving more than receiving, right? So everybody's about giving. We created this amazing culture here. And so we get to the point where everybody's like collaborating or helping each other out, or, you know, seeing, oh, you need this, I'll connect you with so-and-so. It was great. And anyway, at this time I had about, I would say 1,800 people that was coming to the event, you know, and events are hard. You know how that is. Yeah. It's really hard to manage everything. And I'm all putting it on. I'm like bootstrapping this thing, you know, just trying to make things go. This isn't actually my business. I mean, we created a business for it, but it's like, I just wanted to facilitate a place that I could learn. Like that, for me, that was my mastery program, is like, let's bring in the masters and I get to invite them and learn from them. And I'll get very specific what I can learn from. And so anyway, I get this text, and I have a thing. If you ever keynote at my event, you have always a lifetime to come back. I'll always get you a ticket. You just send me a text. You know, I'll always invite you. You know, you get on stage. I want to take care of you for as long as the event is, because you gave us something that we couldn't do, right? Which is your knowledge and experience. And so I get this text from someone that I worked with prior. So have you ever seen the Squatty Potty Pooping Unicorn ad?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So guaranteed the people that are watching or listening from this, they probably saw it, but it's like this cute little unicorn that poops Rainbow Sherbet ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you saw that one.
Yep.
So I was the executive producer on that, and I worked with the Harmon brothers, on that as well, and it did like crazy numbers, and it had a lot of virality into it. It's just doing something I love, which is content and ads and so on. But anyway, so we did a case study together, and so that was kind of our keynote. And he's like, "Are you coming this year?" And he says, "No, I'm not coming." I said, "Okay." And so the event's going on, and he says, "Hey, is my ticket still good?" I'm like, "Sure." And he goes, "Okay, I'm gonna fly down this morning. Here I'm putting on an event," and he flies all the way from Utah to California. And he goes, "I came down because I want you to see this piece of content." I'm like, "Dude, couldn't you just email it to me? Like, why are you flying all this way?" He goes, "No, you need to see this piece of content." And I'm like, I am like trying to put on an event. Like I got 1,800 people running around. I got fires to put out. I'm literally, because like we're bootstrapping this thing. We're not, we're not hiring these big event companies for it, right? And he goes, "No, you have to see it." And I'm like, I go and turn and get ready to walk away. And I'm like, this guy just got on a freaking plane and flew here for me to watch a video. This must be some amazing video, right? So we go into a little conference room, and I'll never forget this. So he had this small little 9-inch Chromebook that we're watching this video on. And he goes, this person is a pretty amazing creator. I think it's an amazing piece of content. I think you need to work with him. And so anyway, he hit play, and immediately I could tell that this short film that this creator made was extremely low budget. And this short film was about the nativity, is about the birth of Jesus Christ, right? And it was called The Shepherd, and he made this short film for his church. But within seconds, I could tell it was low budget. But within two minutes, I was sucked in, and I knew it was amazing content. I never thought about it. It was like a fresh approach, because I read about the nativity. I went through Luke so many different times. I acted it out, and it was always about Mary and Joseph. Well, this one was about Mary and Joseph, but it's through the eyes of the shepherd. And I'm like, this is so good. And I grew up on a farm, and I could kind of relate to, just farming and, animals and such. Yep. Never had sheep, but we had cows, but it was like I could kind of start relating with him. And what I noticed, and it was like I was just like so enthralled, because like if you know this, like in first century, the worst occupation that you could have is a shepherd.
Yeah.
And so this shepherd was not looked upon nicely in the area, right? But then he was the lowest of the low. So he was the lowest in that occupation, but he was actually the lowest class of shepherd that all the shepherds made fun of. And he was, just picked on and made fun of. And anyway, the content went into where he was taking his lamb into the city for the, for the people to see if it's going to be good enough for a sacrifice, right? So the Pharisees were looking to say, is this good enough for a sacrifice or not? And they go, and it says, "Oh no, your lamb's blemished." And so the shepherds were mad at him. He was being ridiculed, got kicked out of that whole thing. It was just having a really, really bad day. It was just like bad day, bad life. And then the next thing happened, and this is where I thought it was so brilliantly done, and it just opened my eyes into a unique way, which was all he wanted to know was he was even prior to this, he wanted to know about the Messiah, right? And then he's hearing in the synagogue them preaching in Isaiah about the Messiah, right? And so he went after being rejected, he went into the synagogue, and here's the rabbi teaching about this Messiah is going to come, and quoting Isaiah, and then they all look at him, and he's dirty. He's like a dirty, a shepherd, but he's also was bleeding. It was like bleeding all over the synagogue, and they kicked him out. And I'm like, man, this guy just cannot get it right today, you know? And so I was all pulled in. And this is the moment that the content spoke to me. And it's also the shareable moment that I will always share. Okay. Which was, he hit his wall. He didn't have any love around him. And a guy stopped him and says, hey, where's the well? And he pointed down and says, oh, it's down there. He says, yeah, my bride and I, you know, we're coming and she's thirsty. We want to get her some things. And she's sitting on a donkey, and it was Mary and Joseph. And it's what he did next, which was realize that he had a water satchel. They didn't need to go to the well. He had the water. He goes, oh, no, I got some water. The lowest part of his day, he was able to give water to the woman that was going to bring forth the living water. And I'm like, I'm all freaking in. Like that was so amazing. I never even thought about it. It was like interweaving something. And I get a knock at the door, and they're like, Derral, we need you out here. And I get up and I go, man, this is amazing. He said, no, it's not even the best part. I go, I gotta go. I got this conference to put on. Yeah. And I go, I'm all in. I'm all in. I don't even care if I hold the light. I'm all in. Right. You just tell me what I need to do. He says, oh, he wants to, you know, I want you to meet him next week. Right. And I didn't even see the rest of the show. I wanted to, but I had other obligations for it. Right.
Yep.
And so anyway, met him. Then I actually flew from LA back to Utah where he was flying in from, and met him for the first time. And it was something like I can spot talent a million miles away. And I says, okay. I says, Dallas, nice to meet you. Where are you from? He's like, oh, Elgin, Illinois. That's really cool. I says, this is really impactful. I was able to watch this, and kind of shared what was great. He goes, yeah, that's awesome. And for me, I like to kid. I like to, you know, just I'm unfiltered, right? Yeah. I'm like, I got to stop you though. I go, you want to make a TV show about Jesus? He goes, yeah, I've been really thinking this would be great, right? And I says, okay, that's awesome. I go, for me to even know if I want to work with you, I need to know what the greatest TV show of all time is. And he stopped and he looked at me and he goes, dude, Breaking Bad. I'm like, okay, all right, there we go. And he goes, but could you imagine doing a Breaking Bad for Jesus? I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Okay, we got it. Wow. And it is. It's about decision making. It's like what I like about Breaking Bad, and I think Vince Gilligan is just an amazing writer. I loved him on X-Files, but like the whole Breaking Bad writing is so great. It's like how life will be changed for good or bad based on our decisions. And it will either escalate new decisions that take us further down the path until we transform. And what I love about the Breaking Bad is, like, I rooted for Walter White. And I watched him make bad decisions to transform into Heisenberg. And it was brutal. And you saw everything, his intentions of what he wanted to do to help his family, get him money. And it spoiled him. It corrupted him. And you could see that path. You could see that decision-making, you know, you can't necessarily, but, oh, it's not that bad. But it's like you're taking steps away.
That's interesting. I see that in The Chosen now. You're saying that, right?
It is. Yep, and so The Chosen the same way. So Dallas and we said, okay, we're going to do it. And this is what happened. I called my wife, and because like we had to buy the rights for the show. And we were going to start a new business. This is just Dallas and I starting this business. And we had some others come on as founders as well later. I called my wife. I says, hey, honey, we're going to start a new business. And she goes, okay, you know, what are we going to do this time? I says, we're going to do a TV show. Okay. I mean, you've been doing a lot in entertainment. What's the TV show about? It's going to be about Jesus. She's like, okay, that's nice, dear. That was it. That was like literally it. Because she knew my heart for Jesus. And she goes, this is going to be great. But she never knew what it was, you know. And I says, well, it's going to take a lot of money. You know, it's going to take a lot of my time. And she goes, tell me what to do. I says, we're going to wire this amount of money. And it was a lot of money over. And we're going to get the rights, start a business, you know, and start developing the show. And what I love was she was surrendered. She's like, whatever. Like, I get you entrepreneur types. Like I've endured this, but it seems that you're going, but this is the difference. This is where I want people watching or listening to this podcast to understand. It was the commitment to go all in. You know, for me, it was like, I felt like everything that I was doing in my life was meant to make make and support a show with my other passion in life, which is Jesus. Mm-hmm. And if I want to bring light into the world, the generation that's not picking up the Bible, that has no clue of what happened 2,000 years ago, and the words that were even uttered and that has impacted us even 2,000 years today. And you look at the world in first century and the world today, there's a lot of similarities. There's hatred, there's racism, there's oppression, there's government oppression, there's overtaxation, there's starvation, it's all there. And if the world needs to know today, like, it could be done in a fresh way. And for me, it was like, we can't do it traditional. I'm a disruptor. I like to do things differently. I don't like to do what everybody else does. And for me, it was, Dallas needs to become an influencer. I understand influencers. He just wanted to write and direct a show, but we needed a movement. And that movement needed to be around making a TV show that would actually bring in an authentic Jesus, not a cheesy Jesus, not a stained glass Jesus, not a Jesus that speaks, the King's English, but an authentic Jesus that looked like people from that area, that sounded like people from that area, and a Jewish Jesus, know, it's just like, you got to have that, right? And so I was all bought in, and it was more about, okay, this is how we need to do it. And then we're like, hey, we got to crowdfund. And he's like, oh, wait, I thought we were going to do it. Like, no, we could crowdfund this. This will be easy, whatever. I'm like, I've done crowdfunding before. I've done this at the Piano Guys, all this other stuff, and I'm like, we can do this. We can do that. And he's like, oh man, you had me until we got to crowdfunding. But he was at a point in time in his career where he just surrendered, and he says, okay, if that's what God wants, we're going to do it. Right. And so he and I started, and we kind of locked ourselves. And this is like a secret for anyone that wants to get hyper fixated on your path, which is lock yourself in an Airbnb and trying to figure out who you are and who you're not. And then also try to figure out how you're going to communicate. So for me, I want.
You guys literally did that, though.
We literally did.
For how long?
2 days. We always do a two-day retreat. Okay. Even to this day, we do a quarterly 2-day retreat. Just lock us and get honed and focused. I guess we're doing it only twice a year now, after The Chosen. But it's like, we locked ourselves in, and we're like, hey, what is the message? What are we trying to communicate? Because we're trying to get this made. So we're like, oh, well, if it's crowdfunding, we can build the crowd. So we need to give them behind the scenes. This is what it could look like. So we were kind of going through all that. And then two, we had to create an ad that we could do. So the idea was use his episode, the shepherd, as the pilot episode of the show. Okay, this is where it all starts. It starts with his birth. Okay, great. And we can put it on social media. I know social media. You might say, hey, Derral, you're just the YouTube guy. No. I'm literally a social media guy. Like I love YouTube, because YouTube will go and hunt and find my perfect viewer, where everything else is feed driven. It's kind of different, right? But I got billions of views on Facebook at that time. And now it's like 87 billion or whatever. But it's like, I understand the algorithm. I understand how to get this going. And I says, no, we'll do an 18-minute video. And Dallas goes, no one's going to ever watch an 18-minute video on Facebook. They just don't do that. And I says, no, they will. And what we need to do is to make sure that you are clear on your pitch. Okay. And that pitch is around the vision of the show you want to create. Okay. And we're going to just share our hearts. We're going to share how this has impacted us and how they can get behind it. Okay. And so we're all kind of going through all this, trying to figure out what The Chosen is going to be, and, the whole thing and the whole crowdfunding angle from it. And the goal was, to get him writing. And so that was where some of the money, the early money that came in was, start writing, get your writers going on this. Wow. And then we were just doing social media. Now here's the difference. So a lot of people, they want the claim of, hey, I want all this fame. I want people to be noticed about it, but they're not willing to do the work to get you to where you need to do it, right? And I says, Dallas, for us to really do this right, we have to actually connect with people on social media. They need to know that it's not a marketing campaign, that this is authentic. Like, this is something that we want. And so we need to reply to comments. We need to reply to DMs. And I kid you not, he would stay up till like 4 o'clock in the morning, replying to every comment, replying to every DM that came in on it. And he did that for years. Why?
Wow.
Because it was important for that one person to have something to share, or it's like, oh my gosh, this really speaks to me. Mm-hmm. And so we did that campaign. And
so was that were those pilot episodes, or was that just you guys kind of pitching?
It was pitching to get people to get behind us,
so
to fund it. It was literally
yet.
To crowdfund it.
Okay.
Well, we called it a pilot, right? But anyway, so it was actually getting them to give us money to invest with us. Basically, there was like a reggae type offering where they can actually have a stake in the show. Okay. And so anyway, we were going through this and we're replying back and forth. Well, the whole thing, I like to put a flag in the ground. I like to break records. Like, it gives you kind of focus of what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So we're like, hey, we want to break the all-time crowdfunding record in film and television. Dallas says it's nuts because we have no fans. And yet the people that did it was like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Veronica Mars. They were like the biggest shows that were crowdfunded to make it. I mean, $5 million plus on it. And I says, well, the thing that we got going for us is there's people like us that want to see great content made. Yeah. They want to see these stories told, and that's what we need to do. And so we leaned into that. And there's some surreal moments, of course, and we don't need to get into all the particulars, but we broke the all-time crowdfunding record. We actually shattered it.
What'd you guys come in at?
Over $10 million. It's nice. 10.1. Yeah. 16 million people got behind that.
Where'd you crowdfund? What platform?
Well, that was the thing. It was like, we thought Kickstarter, the whole thing, but it was like a reggae, so you have to go through, an approved software to go through that process. And so the distribution partners that we were working at the time had a platform that we were using.
Fantastic.
Okay. But we were responsible for getting the traffic there, doing that whole thing. It like, if I could ever go back in time and change one thing, they'd probably be, maybe we shouldn't have done a reggae, because everybody was like, oh, this is a donation. They thought we were a charity or a ministry or whatever. It's just complicated when you get government regulations into everything. It's very expensive. Like, to be a public company is very, very expensive, just with all the hoops that you have to jump through and everything from there. But anyway, that's what God wanted at the time, and that's where we're at today. And so we broke the all-time crowdfunding record, and did that. Now we had the hard part, which was to make the show. Like, getting it. Like, Dallas thought that was the hard part, but the hard part was making the show. And we actually just made it down the road from here. It was like, you guys are how far away? Well, the first season was in Weatherford. Okay. So this is probably a really important story that will resonate a lot with the audience here. But so we're trying to figure out where we can go to Malta. We can go, to Cyprus. There are different places to shoot this, right? I'm like, we don't got that much money, dude. Like, we got to go lean and mean. And so Dallas actually created this short film that he made for his church on his friend's farm. And I'm like, dude, we can dress it out. There has to be something. And so I get this text from Dallas, says, hey, I think I found a village in Texas. It's called Capernaum Village. I'm like, Capernaum Village? That's really weird. We need Capernaum. Like, that's literally the center of the show, of where it starts. And so he goes, can you fly down to Dallas to see it? I'll meet you down here. So we flew into DFW. We drove up to Weatherford. And this lady just felt impressed that she needed to build Capernaum in her backyard. It was the weirdest thing ever. And she'd take church groups or whatever, but it had the pieces that we need to do it. And so we were talking to her. She got excited about it. And so we found the place where we were going to shoot the show.
That's wild.
It was like God knew what we needed and put it on someone's heart, and they did it. They had no idea why they were doing it, but that set saved us millions of dollars. You know, we didn't have to start recreating something that was there. And so it was a beautiful moment. And this is a very interesting thing. So that was, I was driving back. Dallas says, I got to take off. I got to head up there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to fly out. And I get a DM on Twitter at the time. And this DM says, hey, you have a minute to talk YouTube? I'm like, sure. You know, I get a long drive, you know, I'm going to do it. So I pick up, I like to be productive, you know, not just sitting, and I like to at least be doing something. And it was from a kid that just got out of high school. I knew of him. He was making some pretty big moves on YouTube, had about 4 million subscribers at the time, but his content was really, really good. It just sticky. You could just tell that it was really good. And anyway, we get on and we just hit it off. It was just like, he saw YouTube the way that I saw YouTube. He tried things and was really obsessed with data. Like I'm obsessed with data. And he's like, man, this is like, oh dude, I just finally found someone we can actually communicate. And it hit me. It hit me hard. I had a prayer that I offered just a few months earlier. And this prayer was, God, I just realized that Vine died and all these Viners are coming over to YouTube. And it's pretty ironic that we're talking about this, especially today. But they're coming to YouTube and they're doing deplorable acts on YouTube. And they're the fastest growing channels on YouTube. And every young creator is seeing them as the gold standard of what good content is in their eyes.
Yep.
And I says, put me into a position where I can impact that. I'm doing it with Vid Summit, but put me in a position where I can impact that. I want to give them, you know, what good content can be, you know, and they need to say, okay, this is the gold standard. And so anyway, this kid says, we hit it off. He goes, where are you at right now? I says, I'm in Dallas, Texas. He goes, I will be there in 4 hours. I'm like, you're not going to be there in 4 hours. Like you're in North Carolina. You're not going to be here in 4 hours. He said, no, I'll be there in 4 hours. Sure enough, he was there in 4 hours. You know, he got on a plane, flew to Dallas, and I delayed my flight, and we spent a day. And this is the first time I met MrBeast in person. And anyway, we sat down not too far from here. It was in Plano. And anyway, we sat down, had a conversation, and I like to ask people to see. I like to ask them questions to see kind of where they're at. So with Dallas, it was like, hey, what's the best TV show of all time? You just can get clarity when you get the right answers for it. And so here's a young kid. Young kids love YouTube. Why do they love YouTube? They want to be famous, right? They want to flex the Lambos and all that other stuff. And so I'm like, every big YouTuber that makes a ton of money, you know, the first purchase is a Lambo, right? That's what they're driving. And I says, hey, Jimmy, like, I'm very curious. Like, tell me, what kind of car do you drive? And this, I'll never forget this. This is like a surreal moment for me. He goes, you know, I know where you're going with this. And if I have a Lambo, that would be less money I could put into my videos. And then if I got a Lambo, then I have to buy my boys a Lambo because I just can't do it because they're there in the videos too. And realistically, if I had a Lambo, I'd probably want to give it away to get the views because that Lambo is not going to help me become the biggest YouTuber of all time because I want to become the biggest YouTuber of all time. And I knew I needed to mentor this kid. I needed it. And this is literally the same time The Chosen's going, you know. Wow. And I knew that, you know, if I could hone him in and help him, you know, with things that he didn't know, it'd be great. So we actually do what I always do, okay, which is we locked ourselves in an Airbnb in Las Vegas and did it for 2-3 days. And we literally strategized and mapped out his strategy. And I actually, like, I'm really good at patterns, like I said, not only on people with data. And I'm like, hey, I go, do you know what, this is really interesting. When you give away money, you get subscribers. He goes, yeah, I know. I've been doing that for a while now. I go, oh, no, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. And I says, but when you actually give it to random people and they're not aware of what they're getting, you get 5x more subscribers, you know, and it's great. And he goes, honestly, he goes, money just doesn't motivate me. It's just like, I don't get it. You know, everybody gets all into, like, I love to see them. I love that randomness of seeing people react to it. Oh, yeah. It brings something warm in my heart. I'm like, dude, you're a believer. He's like, no, I don't know about this. I wouldn't go that far, but it makes me feel good, you know. And I'm like, no, it's good. And so I decided, you know what, this would be a great opportunity to mentor him. And I'm like, hey, just hit me up whenever. So anyway, we're going, and I'm helping with strategy, and he's making better decisions. He started doing the prank stuff, pushed it all out, and really started focusing in on good content. Yeah. And so anyway, things are growing and going, and he's like, dude, I need to hire you, man. I'm like, I'm doing The Chosen, man. I can't do this. And he goes, no, dude, like literally, I bought you a house next to mine. Okay. I want you to fly your family out and come work for me. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. Like my passion of, I will help you as much as I can, whatever. Then COVID hit. And COVID was weird. I wasn't traveling as much because you couldn't really travel at the time. But I'm like, okay, this is a great opportunity. So I took him up on the offer. It wasn't a full-time gig. It was just literally advising him, paid me a ton of money to advise him. And it was just structuring his plan, you know, plan to become the biggest YouTuber of all time, and really focusing on and bringing the right elements around that he needed to build the foundation. Now, I'm not saying that he's a perfect guy by any means. He was driven, man. And if you really look back, he had the desire to make great content. He wanted spectacle content. He wanted to inspire people to do more. This is what I love about him, that most people will say, oh, he's just in it for the views. And I'm telling you, man, you don't sign up for a philanthropy and do a nonprofit if you want it for the views. Like literally all the money goes to that's generated, and everything goes to. Really? Yeah, 100%. It's 100% of the money
from YouTube.
His philanthropy channel, which is big.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
It all goes to that.
That's great.
And then he's like, I'm going to build 100 houses over here, you know, whatever. And it's great. Or I'm going to, you get blind people to see again, and does all that whole thing. He's got
a good guy on his team, Sean.
Sean Hendricks is amazing.
Great conversation.
Sean's amazing.
We're starting to build a relationship. Just a super good guy. So he's getting some great people around him. So yeah.
So anyway, long story short, it's like it's awesome. You know, Jimmy and I went. He wanted to buy into Vid Summit, you know, which I did. We own a couple businesses together, but. The thing about it, he's now the gold standard. People are looking at him. Oh, you can actually do good things on YouTube and get views. In fact, you get more views. And so it's that whole thing. And so I think mentorship's important. But also just going back to know where we're at. So how this all comes together. The two biggest audiences that were built in the last 6 years, 7 years is The Chosen and MrBeast, you know, and I'm behind both of them. And it's like in some aspect or another.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, it all comes back down to human motivation. It's all coming back down to things like you should read the letters that these kids' parents write MrBeast. My son was more generous today because he watches your videos. He gave someone, you know, that was in need something because they're more generous. Because they saw your videos. You're inspiring the world. The Chosen, on the other hand, is one that I'm really passionate about because I think.
Do you spend a lot of time with
95% of The Chosen?
He's on The Chosen right now. Yep, completely committed to that. Let's talk like tell us some stats about The Chosen. So with that it's an incredible show. So any interesting stats?
Well, we are the number one most crowdfunded project of all time. I mean, it's close to, I don't know, 70 something million dollars that we've done. We're just finished production of season 5 and we're going in. So season 5 is coming out. So, I mean, getting past a couple seasons is amazing. Well, the strategy was getting it out everywhere. You know, we need to do it. So we're on every platform that you can possibly think of. Right now, really interesting stats. We were the biggest show ever on Amazon Prime to stay in the top 10. With season 3, it came out. We were in the top 10 for 6 months. Everything comes and goes in two weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month, but we were at 6 months, just in that top 10. And then 2, we were the number 2 show on Roku, number 3 show on Peacock, but we're on Hulu, we're on all over the place. Interesting stat was when the show first came out, it was hard to watch. We needed to get it out there. And so we decided to do DVDs. Who does DVDs anymore, right?
I didn't know that.
And we did DVDs. Wow. We still do DVDs.
Wow.
And the reason why is we knew that we just need to get people to watch, because if they'd watch it, they would connect with them and they'd want to share it, and they'd become our army, right? And so a lot of our earlier audience was older. They're more inclined to maybe watch some Jesus content than a younger generation, and so a lot of them have DVD players. We are here's an interesting stat. We are the biggest seller of DVDs in the world. Like just in Walmart.
That is the most random.
Just in Walmart, we take more shelf space in Walmart because we're consistently selling DVDs in Walmart. Wow. But we also do it online. It's our number one income when it comes to merchandising is DVDs. So
who would have thought?
Yeah. Well, I mean. Yeah. I mean, yes.
I'm sure you didn't initially think, because you're a digital guy, so your mind was not on.
I'm a digital guy, but I believe in the right medium for the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
And 2, like my mom wouldn't know how to find it online, but she knows how to put a DVD in. So absolutely, if we were going to get that early adoption of people that would probably be the most passionate about it. Yeah. Of course, they need to do that. So that's a big stat. The second one would be. We're very disruptive. We don't do traditional in any regard. And so early on, once the show was made, I became obsessed with one number. And this number was 1 billion people. I want 1 billion people to see the show. Because the biggest show of all time is Game of Thrones. Okay. And Game of Thrones got seen more across, it was over 1 billion people. And I'm like, The Chosen, an authentic Jesus deserves to go more than 1 billion people, right? So I focus in on 1 billion people. And then, so I hyper fixate on the problem, how we get it to 1 billion people. So we need to be everywhere. We just need to be everywhere. And I'm all, I was in Singapore doing a consult for ByteDance. It was buying a platform called Musical.ly that would turn into TikTok. And I'm all thinking, I'm walking down in Singapore, which is, if you've ever been to Singapore, it's beautiful.
I haven't.
It's just clean as clean, whatever. And I look down and I see a family of 5 watching a video. And I look, I have to see what they're watching, right? And they were watching just a movie, but they were just all around this little Android device. And it hit me. I go, The Chosen needs an app. That's what we need. And so I went back. It was really trying to champion the team to see it. And there's some other people that thought, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We thought we needed to make it easier for people. So we have our own app, and that app, anyone in the world can download it for free. And here's the other interesting thing. The number 2 show in the world that was the most watched, believe it or not, was Baywatch. Do you want to know why?
Pamela Anderson. No, I don't know why. Tell me why.
You would think the swimming suits and bouncing things, right?
Yeah.
But believe it or not, it was the most translated TV show.
Interesting.
And so when it's translated into, it was 50 languages it was translated in. And where it was translated and dubbed in those languages, what are they going to play? Stuff in their own language. And so the reason why it was the second most watched TV show of all time is because of translations. Well, that stopped being the second or the most translated TV show, because The Chosen is now the most translated TV show of all time. In fact, we have a nonprofit called Come and See. Well, it's not our nonprofit. It's a nonprofit that's literally trying to get the Chosen translated in 600 languages and throughout the world, right? And it's just beautiful to watch. But the thing about it is they're hyper obsessed of getting in every language, because everyone should see an authentic Jesus in their own language. And so we actually surpassed that. And we're the fourth most watched drama right now in the world, and it's just, we're just gaining momentum. We're about ready to go into.
I don't see it slowing down.
Well, I'll tell you the strategy, which is another interesting fact. We went into the movie theaters. I'm like, we got to get into movie theaters. And Dallas loves movies. I love movies. COVID was going on, movies were kind of dying. We wanted to see it on the big screen, but it's like a gathering moment. I believe in gathering moments. Like when you're surrounded by like-minded people, it's euphoric, right? It's like, oh man, we just experienced something that we loved in. And I wanted to see that happen. Dallas wanted to see that happen. So we actually did our first gathering moment, which was playing the pilot episode, which is the shepherd, right? And we brought in musical numbers like Phil Wickham, Maverick City, and a few others to do, some music videos, and we made an experience out of it. And then we did a surprise episode that our fans didn't know about. Oh, by the way, that was number one in the box office. So that Christmas special went number one in the box office, which is nuts. Wow. Just to even think about it. Independent, whatever. And so we're like, oh, that worked really good. So the next year we decided to do a secret episode that no one knew about. And it was basically the other side of the story, which is Joseph and Mary's journey. And so you had the shepherd, and now Moses, it was called the messengers, right? And so we did that same style, same, music video type thing with different artists and stuff like that. We literally was number one in that. Now, what was interesting, we were only number one for a day, but we got beat out by a small film called Spider-Man. So it was good, but it was like people were talking about us, and it was like doing everything we wanted to do. We're trying to get it into more mainstream, become more about pop culture, where everybody would think, oh, this is interesting. It's not a religion. It's not a ministry. It's a historical, depiction of Jesus. So they'd be more apt to it. And so we did those two things. And the reason why we did those things was we thought, hey, things are going interesting, and we could do it traditionally where we have one platform we go on, but everyone needs to see this, and we need to be creative with our distribution. So we did that. Now, the true plan is, and we do the full seasons, like who shows a full season of the TV shows in a movie theater? We do. And why? It's a gathering moment. It's a way to really experience. And so season 3 was all in theaters. Season 4 was all in theaters. And season 5, it's beautiful because season 5 is basically Last Supper. So it's called The Last Supper is for season 5. And we're going to have 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3 in movie theaters. But it's still 8 episodes. We're just kind of putting them together. What
would you say is your underlying aim with The Chosen? So you have the billion views, right?
No. Views is easy. We already have billion views. Billion people
that have watched it. And then what would you say is what's the underlying aim? Is it to we want the whole world to see an authentic Jesus. And so I'm leading up to a really important point. Yeah. So that is pretty much a theatrical event, and then it'll be released probably on a streamer, and then we'll have it free in the app and all that other stuff. But in season 6, the first thing in season 6 is actually a feature film. It's called The Crucifixion. Okay. That's something that you don't need to be caught up on the show to go and watch. I mean, look what Passion did. Passion was the biggest independent show of all time. It was like over 100 and some odd $1 million in that first little thing domestically, and it went on to, $500 million, whatever it was. But it's crazy. It's crazy, right? And that's a show that they can do. Now, the great thing about it is we got 5 seasons that they just watched that they're really tied to a character, and it's going to really engage, right? And so that is the beginning. It's actually in season 6, not the beginning. It's at the end, but it's at the end of the season. We'll kind of build up to it. But anyway, that right there is a pretty epic moment, because in season 7 we have another feature called The Resurrection. And then we'll also do the rest of the series. So it's like really disruptive way, like TV, movie combination. But realistically, there's moviegoers, and then there's people that love the other aspect, and then do a global distribution. I think for me, it's just more people talking about it, doing things uniquely,
done.
Do you think there's going to be any creative way to integrate an opportunity for people to accept Christ inside of that space? Or are you guys keeping that separate from, are you introducing them to an authentic Jesus, as you would say?
Yeah.
But is there any intentionality in maybe introducing a piece where there's an opportunity for someone to say, hey, how do I take this Christ thing to the next level, right?
So let me maybe rewind a little bit. Okay. This has by far been the hardest project of all time. They said, sum up in one word what The Chosen is for you. And Dallas says, what's a word that would reflect The Chosen? And he says, surrender. Mine was hell. And the reason why is it's the hardest project they've ever done. There's more fiery darts coming after us. Everyone's trying to stop it. It's the craziest thing. But God's always provided what we need in the right time, right? There was something that put fuel in our tank because Dallas and I would always joke, it's like, this project, we're just crawling on glass. We're always just crawling on glass. It's just painful and it's slow and it hurts. But the thing that would help us crawl a little bit further, one more inch every time, was hearing impact stories. The first episode is, when I first read it, I went to Dallas. I was kind of put off, not by the content, but the timing of the content. And I went to him, I says, Dallas, like, this is a dark episode, man. Like, do we want to start the show out that way? And he looked at me and he goes, Derral, I guess you don't get it yet, but that's the show. We're in darkness and you're one way and you can come completely different. And what's in between is Jesus. And so it's basically a demon-possessed woman. Yep,
I remember. Yep, that was an intense scene.
It is an intense scene. And it was just like Jesus only came in for like literally 2 minutes. But it's the right 2 minutes. But that one scene, we've had tens of thousands of people write in and says, that's my story.
Wow.
People coming in as that spoke to me. But then there's other parts of the show that spoke to them. And I want to share this one experience because I think this is most relevant. My whole reason of why doing The Chosen is for my family, is literally because I want my kids and their friends to know the Jesus that I know. And what a better way to do it, and so my heart's for Gen Z, Gen A. And so I got asked to go speak at the Vatican and train some communication directors and a cardinal for the Catholic Church, and went over there, did a premiere in Italy, and then I was going to a youth conference in Spain. And anyway, there's like 5,000 kids of all different denominations at the youth conference. And it's kind of weird there because it's like the Catholic Church and the evangelicals coming together. They like each other, and it was like beautiful. And it was all around basically the youth conference was around the moment where the bleeding woman touches Jesus and is healed, right? And that was the youth conference. And it was this beautiful thing. And so they showed the episodes and so on. And so I keynoted, and then I went into a private session where it was a smaller group and went and spoke there too. And so I was taking, questions and conversations. And this girl came up to me, and it was me and my wife. And she goes, I need to share with you what The Chosen means to me. I'm like, okay, this is not an uncommon thing for me. She goes, I found the show, and I come from a family that my great grandfathers and mothers were really, spiritual and went to church. My mom, not so much. My sister's an atheist. And I saw the show and I went all in. I could see it, and I became a follower. I gave my heart to Jesus. And it was my biggest desire for my family to see the show. And they didn't want to watch it with me. And it crushed me. Because what it did for me, it was so beautiful. It helped me take that first step to develop a relationship with Jesus. And they didn't want it. They didn't want anything to do with it. And so I prayed and prayed and prayed, of what I can do, to get them to do it. And I just invite. And they said, no. Right? And so she prayed once again. And this is through fasting. and she got clarity. Just watch it when they're home. And so she started to watch the episodes, and she just turned it on, turned it a little bit louder than what she probably should, and started watching it. And she's I'm going to binge watch this thing. I'm going to binge watch all of season 1, and we're going to see it. So episode 3 is a very special one. It's Jesus with kids. And these kids kind of discover this guy out in a camp, and trying to figure out what that is. Yeah. And it's a moment what I really love, because it's kind of foreshadowing, what he's going to teach, his followers, and he's able to kind of go through this. It's an episode that Dallas Jenkins wrote specifically on his own. And so anyway, there's a moment where Jesus does a raspberry. He does a fart noise, he goes, that whole thing. And it makes the kids laugh because they're kind of hiding from him. And they start to laugh, and then it kind of discovers. And that's kind of disruptive. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a show where Jesus did a raspberry before.
or did anything funny.
Did anything funny. And which is odd, which we'll get to that in a second, right? Yeah. But so anyway, the oldest sister, she's 26, atheist, comes walking in the moment that Jesus does a raspberry, and she stopped. She goes, "Did that just happen? I thought you were watching a Jesus show. Like that's really weird." Yeah. She goes, "Yeah, that's Jesus." What? Yeah, come see. So she rewound it, and she was laughing. She was engaging. She started to watch the episode, and she goes, "Do you know what? This is really good. Let's watch let's watch it." And so she started from the beginning, and it was dark, and the tears hit, and that redemption point. Mm-hmm. She goes, "Man, this is really weird. What am I feeling?" And she goes, "That's God. Like, God knows. God exists." She goes, "I don't know about that. It's just a good show. I'm just emotional." Right? Goes to episode 2, episode 3 again. They watched it again, and they binge watched all 3 seasons that night. And at the end of the night, her sister was so confused of the world that she thought the world was. And now she's starting to see the world differently. And she couldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep. And so she didn't tell her sister this, but she just kind of wrestled and wrestled and wrestled. And then the next morning she goes, "You know what? I'm going to have to believe that there's a God." And then she asked her, "Would you watch that show with me again, The Chosen?" And she goes, "Yeah." And so they watched it again. They binge watched it twice. And she goes, my sister gave her life and her heart to Jesus. She was once an atheist in a dark place, and then she was transformed. And the most beautiful thing ever was her mom watched that happen and says, "What just happened to my daughter that was cynical and dark? And now she's a completely different person." And she goes, "She found Jesus." And then her mom watched the show. And now the whole family is, they all got baptized and the whole thing. They're going to church. But that happens over and over and over and over again. And so we're not overtly trying to say, "Hey, find Jesus." We're just saying, look, you're going to probably identify with one of these individuals, and they're going to encounter Jesus. They're going to see Jesus through their eyes, and Jesus is going to teach them something, and they're going to have a choice, and you're going to see their choice, and you're going to see the dilemma. You're going to see the struggle that they're going to have, and you're going to relate with that.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility on your guys' shoulders, right?
Not mine. I don't. Let's be clear. I don't write the show. It's Dallas.
Yeah. It's on his, right? So I can tell he takes this from the interviews I've seen. Right, I've dug into this thing.
Yeah.
So from the interviews I've seen, he takes it very serious and very.
100%.
He's making sure that he's doing the best he can to represent Jesus well. And the humor thing's interesting. Let's talk about that for a moment, right? Because that's funny when you see, like, even when I bring it up to people or they've seen some of the episodes, they're like, my nephew, right? I really enjoy the episodes, right? And it's going to be hard to make anything perfect when it comes to trying to represent something like that. It's impossible, actually, in whose terms perfect.
Who knows perfect?
Who
anyway.
knows exactly. So So it's really trusting the Spirit and leaning into that, and really trusting the wisdom that God's given him to write the show. And so the humor is right. So my nephew, he didn't initially agree with the humor, and I was trying to spend some time with him to process. I'm like, do you think Jesus laughed? Right? Do you think? And yep. And so,
time to laugh.
Would he ever make a joke?
Yeah.
Could Jesus have ever made a little joke? Was it always serious, right, in his entire life, or could he have a little lightheartedness and bring some humor? And if that's built into us as human beings, right? And so it's a real interesting. But what are your thoughts on the?
Well, here's what I know. The Jesus that I know understands us personally of what we need. And if he was just this strict stoic deity that walked the face of the earth, I don't know if I could relate to that. I don't know if I could. And for me, and this is just my own personal thoughts. This does not reflect The Chosen at all. Okay. And it doesn't reflect even Dallas's beliefs on this. But for me, if Jesus Christ is the biggest influencer of all time, he needed to be magnetic. He is magnetic. People were drawn to him. Like, how does he actually go and do sermons that no one wants to eat? They're just enthralled and being fed spiritually, right? That is like the feeding of the 5,000. It's just amazing. It's like, it literally says in the Bible that it was, because of his words, they just didn't want to leave. They wanted to cherish every little moment, right? And so for me, God knows us. Jesus knows us so deeply, right? And if humor's not a part of it, then why did he give humor to humans? Why did he give it to us? And I think we need to do it. I do believe there's a time to laugh. I really do believe there's a time to laugh. And I don't think it's done in a cynical way, by no means. Yeah. But it's in a way to really say, don't take yourself too seriously all the time. It's a very playful thing, right?
Yep.
And so for me, that's the Jesus that I wanted my kids to see. It's not a scary guy. It's a guy that you want to be friends with and develop a deep relationship that knows you deeper than anything else. And sometimes when you're taking yourself so seriously, maybe that's not what Jesus wants you to do, right? Now we don't know. We don't know how it is, but it's very plausible to be the most magnetic person that ever walked the face of the earth. That he had all the human dynamics.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he knew at the right time with the right person in the right way.
Well, I have a question. While we're on this topic, right? So part of the episodes, right? So he's right there. It's biblically based, but he's also intertwined his own kind of assumed or thought or created storylines. Right. What are your thoughts? I'm sure that's an issue that people have.
They think Dallas Jenkins is the Antichrist, the heretic. You can go find that.
Would you say that's one of the biggest complaints of The Chosen for people?
Not at all. Not at all. I would just say there's a lot of people that says, why would you create scripture? We're not. The Bible's the Bible. We're just a TV show, But I do think there's a lot of people that would only want to have it be all biblically based. Like don't add anything to what the Bible is. And we're okay with that. Let them, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. We're just a TV show. And what Dallas has said is why is that moment documented in the Bible? Okay. And he works his way backward. What would be plausible to put a situation in or a scenario in that humans would engage with? And why would that be so relevant? So there's one that I really love this last season. I don't know if you're caught up on it or anything like that, but we're
halfway.
You're halfway. So I might spoil it for you, but I got to share it because it's just every episode I just cry like a baby, just because it connects with me. But there's been tension since season 1 between the tax collector, who's Matthew, and Peter, Simon Peter, right? And Simon Peter thinks he's a traitor. And he made his life and the all the Jews in the town pretty miserable, right? The tax collector. And when Jesus called Matthew, Peter just freaked out. He says, "Why are you calling this guy
the rock?" And
then why did Matthew just drop everything and just follow, right? And he still has quirks or whatever. But it was the moment that came to a point in the scripture, how many times I need to forgive. You know, is it one time? Is it two times? You know, and it was like, how do you work back from that? So it was this whole story that literally has been in 4 seasons that was developed. And it wasn't just Matthew. It was Matthew with his parents that disowned him, that kicked him out, you know, because here he is collecting taxes on his own parents, like calling them in, you know, and they needed resolution. But where he needed resolution is with Peter too, you know, and Peter needed to do it. But it was like, see Matthew go and ask for forgiveness was a beautiful thing. But what's more beautiful was the reaction of Peter. Because he's like, I heard these words what Jesus said, and I talked to him, and I'm sorry. And he was like put off. He's like, what am I supposed to do? He was my enemy. I didn't need to like him. And it was that wrestle of Peter and going and just being so caught up in himself. He's a true believer. Like he'll do anything that Jesus says. And when he comes back, he goes, well, maybe you need to forgive him, you know, just like 70 times 7, you know, the whole thing, right? And it just ate on him. And he went and had that moment and was able to forgive him and put his arms around him and says, it's done. Okay, it's over with. And it was one of the most beautiful things. And I want to share that with you because I actually had a friend of mine that says, I have actually had the worst relationship with my parents. I just hated my parents. When I saw that episode, I called up my dad and I asked for forgiveness. And now we have a relationship. You know, it's strange parents and family. And it was just like that lesson we hear about it. And like you never give it context. Okay, you always have to forgive, but it gave a human story
when
that happens.
When you really experience it.
Then when you see it, you know what Jesus was teaching, and that's where I find so powerful. But so for those individuals that think, hey, you're adding to the
if there's going to be a Jesus show, it has to be, you know, there has to be nothing added, only the Bible. And so what, and I'm okay with it because I do believe there's some color, right? It gives some color to what could have happened in that moment, right? What led up to what Jesus said, right? So Jesus said this, but out of curiosity, what could have been the reason he said that, you know? And so you guys have brought in some color.
And I was saying that other stuff is already made. Go watch that if that's what you want to watch. I mean, it's been made for years, you know, just nobody's really watching it except for the people that just wanted it exactly that way. So, it's so good. Our family watches it together. It's a fantastic show and has been very impactful, especially for my mom. My mom's in a tight spot emotionally, and so it's just created some freedom for her. That's so great. It's great to hear. I think it goes back to my first original mission. It's just like, I just want content that will impact people and have them talk about it. So just even knowing that we're just talking on this podcast about it is great. Yeah. And I want to circle back to what you're doing, because like I'm really the reason why I put my life on hold and come and did this. It's actually inconvenient to be here. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But the reason why I did is because right now the world is on attack of the family. They're attacking the family very specifically, and it's attacking the sanctity of a family and that relationship. And there's far too many of my friends that focus in on making an impact to the world, and they lose their world in the process. And so as I was like knowing about you guys and kind of met a few of you at Vid Summit, it was like, oh man, this is really cool. I really love that you're like slapping them into shape. You're getting them to really focus in on all the pillars that will bring them more happiness, because once it's in balance, you can do a lot more, right? And so that's the reason why I'm here. And I would say those that are listening to the podcast, it's more about committing to become better. The reason why I love The Chosen is it's an invitation to be a better version of us. And this is why I love this show so much. It's because everything else I saw the disciples as one character. They were all, oh, I'm a follower of Jesus and I will do thee, thy, and thou, and, you know, talk in King's English or whatever. And I wouldn't have any personality or character, right? But what I love the show is it shows humanity for its good and its bad. And it shows our human nature. But it also shows the silent sufferers, in a way, because there's people that are suffering. And then people that are overly zealous or greedy. There's a lot of different things. And I think if we can just slow it down a little bit and prioritize our lives on what's truly important, like what really brings you happiness, what really is going to be a legacy. No one, and I truly do believe this, there's no one's going to document of how many hours you spent of impacting the world. It's those time that you spend with your kids. That's the moments that they're going to cherish. They're not going to be, you don't want to say, oh, I never saw my dad. He was always working, It's just like, no, when my dad was there with me, he was present. He was interested in my things. And so I want to give you my parenting style, because I think it's really important for this group. I was one of 10 kids. And so I was always in a loving family, and it felt like a team. And my parents were very supportive. However, that being said, I didn't feel like they were communicating with me deeply. Like they couldn't get out of me what was going on in my head, and it was just always misunderstood. So we had a little bit of friction early on in my life, and I spent a lot of time with a mentor, my grandfather, that was able to speak to me. But I vowed when I became a father, I never wanted my kids to feel like they weren't heard or not seen. I wanted them to feel I wanted them to have a deep enough relationship with me that I would be their first phone call if they're in trouble. And so I vowed to do two things, and this is a vow that I made with God, and I told my wife, because I think you needed someone that can keep you accountable. But I'm like, I'm never going to lie to my kids. I'm never going to do it. And it was very awkward when they're young, and there's all these little fantasy things that they believe in, and I just never lied to them. Did I mislead them or anything? No, I never lied to them. I would tell them, and they thought it was a joke, and we played it off as a joke until they realized that I was telling the truth. And it is a beautiful thing. And then two, I never wanted to overreact. And that's hard for me, because I'm a very passionate person, and I'm, and so I'm a totally different dad. So when they go and break something or destroy something, most parents would flip out, and I never overreacted once. I'm like, oh, what just happened? And that led to, that was kind of my earlier stages, but the next stage was really important, which was I never wanted to solve their problems. And so if I did that and I never solved their problems, then I'm not a hovering parent. I'm a parent that's supportive, but not a parent that just makes life easy for them. And so I know it's a different parenting style than what most people are used to, but my kids,
I love it. Some of the stuff we teach, so beautiful. It creates space. It creates space for them to show up.
What are they going to learn if you do it all for them, right? Yeah. But it was like I had some kids do some really dumb things, and guess what? I was their first phone call. And when they came in, and it's funny, I just says, "Oh man, how can we help you? Like what can we do? Do you just need a hug? How can we support you?" But it was always them coming up with the answers, and I would never tell them this is what you need to do. Never. In fact, I was one of those dads that was like, "Oh, you screwed up, man. Like, tell me what your punishment is." And my kid's like, "Oh man, this." I would have never done that, but I'm like, "Okay, man." So they always had their own punishment or whatever.
That's good. And we operate something off of Gestalt. We do it through a lot of our peer groups that we have within Rise of Kings, our entrepreneurship peer groups, but it's called Gestalt therapy. And it's basically sharing a story. So if they're dealing with something, right? Let's say they're getting bullied. You can tell them, "Hey, go fix it this way." Or you could say, "Hey, okay, let me share a little story about when I was bullied." And then there's so much power, because then they get to choose what they want to do. You're not saying to do anything. You're doing an experience share, a very powerful way to create space, and then they get to choose what they want to do.
That right there is my grandfather in a nutshell. Like he was my greatest mentor outside of Jesus. Like just a man of God, a man of faith. But he never, and that's why I made those covenants. About not lying, not overreacting.
That's great that you made a covenant, a declaration. There's so much power in a commitment like that, as opposed to just, hey, I'm going to try. Like, no, I'm making a vow. I'm making a commitment, a covenant to not do this thing. It just, you may fail, but it sets you up for so much more success than it would be nice if I did this.
Well, I mean, it's just more serious because a covenant is not, and this is what I love about covenants. It's just not me wanting to do it. It's me offering it to God. This is my offering, God. I'm going to fall short. I'm going to need help along the way, And so, but my grandfather was that way too. He really had a story for everything. And I think that's why he could speak to me, is because he was trying to help me without like saying, oh, you should do this. Like, I don't like people telling me what to do. Trust me. Like no one does. Right. No. But it was just more, I never thought about it that way. And then he's like, well, so what are you going to do about it? Oh, I don't know, And so he'd had another story, and it's great. But I think from the family side, I think everyone could take an extra step to develop a relationship. And then I want to tell you another thing. I do not have a hobby. My wife says, get a hobby. Always get a hobby. And I want my hobbies to be whatever my kids are into. Because that guarantees me time. And I'm a big goal setter. Like every July I set my goals, and I take from July to December to write down the goals and then have like an action plan. I try to figure out all the obstacles that's keeping me from getting that. And this last December, and then January is when it become activated. Yeah. And so I do 3-year goals.
I love the extra time to strategize. So we set goals. I've been setting goals since I was 18. Very clear written goals. I've saved all of my goals, the yearly goals. I write it in the form of a vision. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to accomplish it's December 2020 or it's December 2025, 31st. And this is what I've accomplished. This is who I've become. So I've set a lot of my goals around not just what I can accomplish, but who I can become on that journey of accomplishing those. And there's a lot of power around that, because I just don't want to accumulate more things and accomplish more things. But like, hey, who am I going to become? And how am I going to impact people on that journey? I usually do it in November-ish, December-ish. I love the additional
Well, let me tell you why I do it, because you can put it on a vision board, you can set a goal and have it be super apparent, right? Yeah. And a lot of people will lose focus and might not achieve it because they're not looking at the most important about a goal. It's not your desire to do something, but it's your willingness to do what it takes to become what you need to become. And so the reason why I do it in July, I try to slow down. That's when I do my family reunions and take some time off for whatever, just slow down a little bit. And I like to walk with God. I like to talk with God. I'm like, hey, God, where do you want me to be? Like, what do I need to become? And two, it's just like on every aspect of my life. It's not very like, I want $1 million in the bank or like that. That's superficial. Like it doesn't motivate me at all. However, knowing that God can kind of impress upon my heart where things that I can improve on in my life on every aspect, those 4 pillars is great. And I think it's great. But the problem is far too many people, like I've done it. I put it on my board, but it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do to get it? And I think that's the most important part of achieving anything is like, what's going to stop you from getting it? When this comes up, what are you going to do? And it's creating that action plan that's there. So for me, I like to set the goals and I become hyper fixated on it. But then it's more about, well, what can I do? Or is there another goal that I need to get that before I can get there? Because that might be too far. So I always set 3-year goals in July. Yeah. And then I put the action plan together and I get these micro goals together because I realize for me to get there, I have to do certain stages of it to get to there in 3 years. And then at the end of the year, I activate my goals at the beginning of the year. So my 3-year goals are activated. My previous 3-year goals are my 2-year goals. My 2-year goals are my 1-year goals. My 1-year goals are the 6-month goals. And then the 6 months that are in front of me are just basically what I need to do. It's my work. Is what I'm going to focus in on. And then every time I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today to do these 6? Because I projected out far enough in the next 3 years, right? And so that's where I'm at. So the reason why we brought it back to with my kids, so I don't have hobbies. I noticed that my kids like to play Fortnite. I worked with Epic Games, to do some stuff with Fortnite, and so I'm like, I'm a gamer, right? But I never really got into it. So I set a goal. I set a goal that, hey, do you know what? I'm going to get good enough that they don't feel like I'm keeping the team down, that they'll actually want to play with me, and I can contribute. And so I set a goal. I says, look, I'm gonna play 3 games a day until I get good. And so this is kind of my plan, is I'm going to do 3 games a day, and I'm going to learn and kind of grow. And so I knew that my goals were going to be activated in January. So we're in Dominican Republic, and like we had a switch and Starlink, so we're in the middle of nowhere, right? And I'm like, okay, now's the time. It's like literally New Year's Eves is what we call it. It's the day before New Year's Eve. And so I'm all playing, and my kids are like, hey, Dad's playing. They're all taking pictures, playing Fortnite. Look at this, like whatever. And I says, hey, I'm good at video games, but I'm not good at this game. Just give me a little bit, right? And the countdown of the new year was coming in. I'm hyper fixated on getting my first victory royale. You know what I'm saying? And I did it. It was like 11:30, PM, right there, and we were able to celebrate. Everybody got excited. And then that next day I got four Vicks. And so it's like Vic Royales. And so the thing for me was that wasn't when my goal was started. Like I wasn't good enough to play with them yet, even though I got it, and it could have been the server I was on. I don't know. Like who knows? But to this day, I travel with a Switch, and I went and bought one, and I plug it in wherever I'm at, and I'm playing. And the reason why, it's a goal, and that was my plan. And one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened is that not only did I start playing with my kids, but I'm playing with my nephews and all this other stuff, and they're confiding in me where their life's at, and I'm giving them some stories that we're talking about of things that they can consider, and I'm mentoring them in a unique way. But man, I can carry the team now. I got 2 sons that it's like they can do like 21, 30. I mean, they're just nuts good, right? And I might have 9, 10, 15, somewhere on there, but they're really, really good. But then I'm not keeping them down, and we're discussing it. It's so important. It's important to do what your kids.
I love the hobby idea. Right, I'm pretty passionate about that, because I dedicate time to those 4 pillars and relationships outside that, friendships. But really, there's not a lot of space outside of that for random.
Who has the time for it?
Yeah, especially if you're more entrepreneurial minded or you're more career focused, right? You're going to really dedicate a lot of time to that. So if you only have so many hours outside of that, so it's got to be God. Right, it's got to be my family and relationships, and then some health stuff inside of that. But I love.
But how many parents, like seriously, how many parents are like, "This is my hobby. If you want to hang out with me, young son or daughter, come do my thing." And it's just like, well, how? I mean, and don't get me wrong. There's certain kids that might want to spend time with that, and they actually come to find out that they actually like to do those things. But like, how arrogant is that? It's like, when you really break it down, if you want to spend time with me, you're going to come do the stuff that I want to do. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you're missing an opportunity to help them discover who they are. They might have different passions and loves. And this is another thing I think every parent should do, is the reason why we have finances is to get access. That's the way I look at it. Access to experiences. I love experiences. I think there's something holy about taking you out of what your comfort level is and having an experience that opens your eyes. I mean, you built a business around an experience, right? Like, people come here and it's transformational. Well, you can have a transformational moment on a family event. Whenever I plan, I like to go big. Like when I go, like, I mean big. I'm like, I want an experience. So like, I have a couple rules. We never stay at a resort unless I'm doing it for an event, and we have to, do it that way. But if it's for family, it's like, we're living where the people live. We're going to experience what the people eat. We're going to do the people way. Right. Love it. And I love it. And I like to go like super, super big. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll have, like, if we're going into a third world country, we'll have, security and stuff like that. Cause I mean, it can get pretty crazy. Right. But I want them to experience. And then like we usually do it over the Christmas break. And so I'm like, hey, I don't like Christmas in the sense of giving things. I think we have enough things in life, and so we've always only given them 2 gifts, like a gift, from mom and dad, and they get a gift from their siblings or whatever. And so it's like I'm okay with that. And then whenever we travel, it's like, no, let's give it to someone else. And so we'll go shopping and go give it to people there or whatever. But I like to travel, so that's kind of I would say the thing that I enjoy, but I like to disconnect. And this is where I think a lot of fathers can be present. It's like when you go, like disconnect from the world, man. Yeah. Like be the hardest person to get in touch with, and spend time with that. And I did that. That was another goal that I made. That made me a better father. It's like you're so worried about work, and if you have a cell phone with you at home, you're not home. And I made a vow, and I covenanted with God that when I get home from work, before I have my home office, I was like, I'm going to put that cell phone and I'm not going to look at it until I wake up the next day. Do you know how hard that was for me, managing multiple businesses, putting out fires, and how pissed my partners were and employees were that I couldn't get a hold of? But taking that moment that pushed away any enticement to be present was powerful, and that right there, man, honestly, it's like, it changes everything.
That's a game changer.
It's like the intentionality. Because I think a lot of people say, I want to be more present, but they're not willing to do it. Because when I made the goal, I'll never forget it. And why I got emotional is because God's like, you got to spend these precious time with your kids. And I said, God, you're making me do all this stuff. I don't have the time. And he goes, no, you do. You choose not to do it. So I'm all having this like I didn't hear audible words, but I can feel it in my heart, right? Yep. And so anyway, so I'm like, putting my action plan together. Well, if God wants me to do this, what's stopping me? So it wasn't the putting my cell phone there. That wasn't the goal. It was spending more quality time with my kids to be more present. Right. And I realized, okay, what's keeping me from doing that? And then I go look at my phone and I realize that I'm responding to late night texts. I'm responding to late night emails. I'm trying to figure out what's my next day going to look like. And I was out of freaking balance. And so I'm like, okay, the moment that I walk through the door, I cannot have this near me because I'm not man enough to have the discipline not to look at my phone. So it was the funniest thing ever. I'd walk home, go right to the room, put it right in the charger, and I, put it on silent mode so I couldn't get the buzzes or anything like that. And then I walk right out of the room.
Have you seen those glass jars?
Yeah.
That you put your phone in and there's a code, and the only way you can get it out when it releases the top of the jar is the timer. And the only way you get it out is you have to break the entire thing. That's the only way to get your phone out.
That's so great, man. That's the invention right there.
I love it. I met a guy that was same thing. He made a commitment to his entire company, everybody, that after, even his friends, after I think it was 5 o'clock, they could not get a hold of him. So no matter how many times you texted him, his phone was off. And he told everybody that up front. He told me that. He said, hey, by the way, as we were building a relationship, you won't be able to get a hold of me after 5. Just so you know, I have a commitment. I'm going to be present with my family. I'm like, wow. Okay. Well, that's next level. And I've in transparency, fallen back into the trap of checking text messages in the phone.
It's going to happen.
And I'm ready to get back on that because it's still, I can tell it bothers Jessica, right? And I like to finish my text messages off at the end of the night so I don't have any the next day. So at 9:30 at night, I'll shoot a couple last messages, but it always happens to be when I'm in the bathroom and Jessica's right there. Almost and she catches me, she looks at me, and I'm on my phone. I'm like, man, I know what she's thinking. She's thinking, why aren't you present with us? And it's that one time that I'm doing it, and I think it's time for me to get back on the train of being fully present by, I might need to throw mine in the safe.
Do you know, how old are your kids?
They are 9 and 12.
Okay. So I like to do this. This is the one thing that my parents did. They do a family council. I did the family council and I pulled my kids around me because I was going through the plan and I'm like, I need to figure this out. And I sat them down and I says, hey guys, I'm struggling with something and I need some advice. and they were about the same age. I had a little bit older child from there, and she actually had a phone. And it's funny because the only way you can get a phone in our family is you have to learn to play the piano proficiently enough that you can play 18 hymns. And that's the only way you get a phone. You can't buy it or whatever. So she had it, and she was getting kind of sucked into that world too. And so I brought it up and says, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling here. I'm always tethered to this phone. Do you have any ideas? And my daughter goes, Dad, I know you need it for work, but what if we did a technology fast? And that means that when we're in the house, we're not on technology, and it's everyone. We're not watching TV shows. We're literally technology free. And I says, well, what does everybody think about that? Oh yeah, that'd be fun. We can do whatever. We can go outside and jump on the trampoline, whatever. This, the kids are rambunctious, whatever. And that is what I needed. I needed some support, but I also needed someone doing it with me.
Family and beautiful.
And I'll tell you what.
Wow.
She came up with that idea, and she convinced 3 of her other friends to do the same thing with their families. And it was like we were all doing it together. And I says, if we can get through these 30 days like this, I will take you and I'll give you an experience of a lifetime. And she goes, what's that? And I go, there's this indoor skydiving, and I'll let you take your friends. You can just go take your friends. If we can get through this, you can help me get through this. I'll make a night that you'll never forget, right? And so she got really excited about that. They had a goal of getting there, but they helped me through it. They literally did. And I was saying, if here's a teenage girl that's obsessed with a phone, that just spent 8 years trying to learn to play the piano so she could get a phone because we're mean parents, I guess, or something. It wasn't. It was like, hey, I know your friends have phones. Hey, I know how to get a hold of you.
I love it. I'm pushing that back as far as I can. So
yeah. But it was great, and it was that support that I need. But it was that little thing that took me over the edge. It's like, okay, I can see her doing it. And so to me, it became easy. And now it's just what I do, and then,
so good.
And then another thing, for, I think, people that are ultra focused, it's not bad to have multiple things going on at once. I literally have 7 businesses that I'm running. It's not bad to do it. But there's different stages of the business. And so I want to use this with The Chosen. I knew that my agency needed to change if I was going to do The Chosen. I couldn't do the one-on-one, and I needed to do it. So I made a 3-year plan. I set a goal. God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, if I'm supposed to put The Chosen into this and we're going there, I need to put more time, energy, and effort into it. And it's going to be like me working 5 jobs. But I need to get away from the agency work. And I had a couple contracts that were pretty massive, that I had to complete. I can't just abandon people because I decided to go in a different direction. That's not honest. Mm-hmm. Plus a breach of contract. They could come after me, right? Mm-hmm. So I needed to finish with that. And so I created that covenant with God. I said, okay, this is what I need to do. And I'm going to put a plan together. So I put a plan together. I realized in that 6 months of putting the plan together, all the obstacles it's going to get me. If we go one-on-one to one-on-many, it's very hard. And so I needed to fulfill with the contract, and I needed to walk away from some of the things I liked, and I needed to go all in on some other things. And so I realized I needed to bring someone in to run my company because I can't run my company. And they need to be proficient enough of what I do to support what we've done, and go from there. And so anyway, that was activated, and we had 3 years to make it happen because that was my 3-year goal. And so I brought a guy on. He was a employment coach, had an MBA, right type of personality for me. He's mission driven. Mm-hmm. And the first the first meeting, I says, I want to do The Chosen. I showed him The Chosen. That was the first time I saw The Chosen, showed a trailer. I says, I need to be here in 3 years. Like I got to give it all my all, and I need to transition, right? And so I need you. You're the first person that's really going to help me do it, because I really never had other consultants at the agency. It was just me, and then I'd bring in other people under me to do what I told them to do, or whatever. And so, and I says, I personally don't know how to train you, because I build a lifetime consulting. And so I know you have a master's degree, and I know I'm paying you a lot of money, but you're going to only have one responsibility, and you're going to hate it. And says, I just don't know any other way, but I record every one of my consults, and I want you to transcribe every freaking word on that consult. And this is pre-AI, where it was there. I guess it was coming on about that time. I says, I don't want you to cheat. Like you have to do that, and you have to give me notes. I want notes for everything that I'm doing. I says, that's the only way I know to train you, because you need to do it. And I says, you're going to get to a time where you're smart enough that you're going to start anticipating what I'm going to say, because I'm very consistent. I'm not going to change the strategy. Now, the situation could change, and it could be a different dynamic you might not know, but you won't know that until it comes out, right? And I'm going to surprise you. And I says, I want you to get to that. And I says, you're going to probably do that for, 6 months, 9 months. And it's your only job. And I know it's going to feel beneath you, but that's the only way I know how to do it. 3 months into it, he comes back to me. He goes, man, I've been doing this. I think I got YouTube down. I got it. I got it. I can see it. And then also I was like digging deeper on this video. Have you ever heard of search engine optimization? And I go, Justin, oh my gosh. You're not listening to what I'm saying. That's hilarious. You're not listening to what I'm saying. That has nothing to do with search. And he's like, you got to check out this guy. I'm like, dude, he is like so 2011. This is not 2011, man. Like this is like so old information. And I says, you don't get it. I says, I'll keep on going at it. So sure enough, another 6 months. And he comes back, and we have this conversation, and I go, okay. And I'm going to give you your second task. You're going to start a channel. You're going to get a play button, and I will consult you. I will help you, but you have to understand as a creator how to create content. So we create channels all the time. So I have 34 channels that have over 1 million subscribers that I started personally. I've helped other hundreds of people get their gold play buttons, and I've have 111 billion video views on YouTube. It's crazy, right? I go, you got to earn it. You got to know it, because the only way you can help someone is if you know their pain, and you got to know their pain. So anyway, got his play button, and the next stage of that, and this is really important, was because like when you have an action plan, it's like I know where I wanted to be. It was like, well, if I'm not going out, how do I get in front of more people and bring people in? So I need a group coaching program. Mm-hmm. And then I also need a way to do it, because I don't believe in paid ads. I believe in supplemental ads that can do it, because I'm a content guy. I'm an organic guy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a book. And so in the 3 years, I have to write a book. And that will be the funnel that will teach the system, and it'll come into a group coaching program. And the book will actually feature people that I've helped, because I have to train them before. And if I know the training of taking what I've been doing with my clients and put it in more of a structured way, then that can be content for the book. And so it's kind of a win-win. And so I announced it. Oh, and then that led to the guy that was coming on. Anyway, I says, okay, we got Vid Summit coming up. It's a conference I put on. It's where all the YouTubers come in, and I'm gonna have you be in a booth that just says Channel Jumpstart, and it has my name, and it just says 30 spots, and it's your responsibility to sell them. And I don't know if it's going to work. I'm not going to pitch it from stage. I just need 30 people to sign up. That's it. Right. I want 30 curious people, because they're going to see my name. Like, what is this? It doesn't say anything outside of just, explode your channel or whatever. And so he had to learn to sell it. And then we still needed to deliver on it. So we had 30 people sign up. paid us a whopping $1,000 a piece, which is way beneath where I want it to be. But I'm like, hey, this is, if they're going to be willing to go and be the guinea pig of me helping to understand as I'm developing, it's great. And so what they didn't know though, I wanted to make them my success story of the book. So like I had really, I wanted to see them win further than they could ever imagine. And so anyway, this is where it's really important. And it's going back to good business principles. If you want to get out of something, but still be in something, this is the way you need to do it. So he sold every person that came in. We did the trainings, and the training we do it where we provide video training, and then we get on a live Q&A every week. And you do it for, at that time it was 8 weeks. It's now 12, but it's like, we wanted to see exactly what was needed from it. And then getting the feedback Q&A it was better to hear from them so I know how to improve it, because I wanted to refine it. Because I believe in giving them something and then just analyze, did it work, did it not work? Was the points I explaining delivered well, that they could apply it? And then at the end of each one, they always had assignments. If you do the assignments, you're gonna succeed. If you don't do the assignments, you're not gonna succeed, right? So anyway, we get to our first live call, and I says, Justin, I'm gonna be late. Okay. I'm never late. Like I literally called your team because I'm like, hey guys, like I didn't know, I still wasn't late. I mean, it was like 9:00 when I got here. It was like, okay, great. But it's just like, seriously, it's like, I don't like to be late. I don't like to waste people's time. I like to give them my time, but I says, I'm going to be late. And he goes, oh, that's not like you. I'm like, yeah, just whatever. 10 minutes. Why did I do that? Because I needed him to figure out what I was going to say next, because he had no idea what was going to happen. So he jumped on. He says, guys, I'm so excited to be here. Isn't Justin great? He is your coach. He is your coach. He's the one that brought you into here. I'm super excited to work with you. And honestly, I'm just here. I'm your mentor. But if you need questions, answers, he's your coach. I just empowered him. And then I gave him, hey, where are they at? I need them to succeed. Where are they at? Where are they at? So I'm all talking to one person, and he's talking to everybody else. And then we'd go through, and he started developing a relationship. Oh, did you see this? They're doing really cool. Whatever. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So we come in, answer questions, but every single time it's 10 minutes late. Because if I would have come on, everybody would have looked to me.
Yeah.
I can't have them look to me. If I'm trying to get out, I can't. Right. So that went through it, and we came around. And refined it in 2 years. It was just an amazing program. And I'm like, okay, we can write the book. We got this. We got this. It's like so amazing. So I'm in Hawaii for Christmas break, and I did something I promised I would never do, which is take my phone with me. I just didn't do it. For some reason, I felt like I needed it. I don't know why. Right. And I sit down, and I'm like literally laying on the beach, and it's a sight to see, let me tell you. And my wife's like, finally we can just relax and enjoy it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And I get a ding on an email, and I did something that I vow I'd never do, but I felt like I just didn't know why I needed my phone. I just knew I needed it that day. And I looked at it, and I says, Carolyn, you'll never guess what just came in. And she goes, what's that? And I go, do you know how I told you I need to write a book this year? Yeah. And I'm ready to do it. Well, I just got an email from a publisher that would like to jump on the phone. This is during Christmas break. So I opened the email, and it says, hey, we've been looking at your stuff, and we feel like you're a good fit for our publishing company. Can you jump on a call? So I respond back, yeah, like, let's jump on a call. Like, I can do it right now. So I get on the call, and he's like, hey, we noticed that you're really good with YouTube. In fact, you have different qualifications that we look for. We like the data approach, and you have all the certifications, and you've done so much. We've done a lot of the technical books, and I was very familiar because I'd buy a lot of their books that they publish because it was with very, very nerdy type stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, this would be great. He says, hey, I'm going to pitch you to the team. I just wanted to see if you'd be willing to write. And I says, well, funny that you say that. Is I have a goal this year to write a book. I got to release it this year. It's just now activated at the beginning of the year. And it's okay, great. This is me perfect. Right. And so anyway, I'm sitting on the beach. Man, I'm just kind of blown away. I'm like, how does this work? And it is God reaffirming to me that when I take an offering to him in July and say, God, this is where I feel like you want me. Is that correct? And I feel it, that's where I should be. And I'm willing to set a goal to get where he wants me to be. Then he's going to open up doors I don't even know exist. Right. And I need to be able to have a plan. I knew this is like, the third part of a plan, but it's the most important part because it was supposed to be out there for the world to see and read and then come into my funnel. Like it's so important. And so here I am and I did something I vow I don't do. And I'm on the beach and I do it. And then literally within 10 minutes of saying, hey, yeah, I'd be interested to do it. He's like, okay, we're all in. Here's our offer. They were offering to pay me a ton of freaking money. Because it's not like just a regular publisher. It's not one like, oh, we're going to go self-publish and whatever. You know, ton of money. Like, I don't want the money. Like, why don't want you to invest? I'm not motivated by money. Like, I just want, when it comes in, just pay me my royalty, whatever it is. I'm not worried about that. What I do need is this, right? And so we kind of explained from it. But I'm sitting at the beach because January 1st is when that goal is activated. And I only have a year to get it done. And now I have someone helping me that can get it done, right? And it's not, they're not writing the book. They're helping me with, oh, you should figure out this and you should consider this when you're doing. And so here I wrote the book and it became a bestseller. So it was Wall Street Journal bestseller. And it's actually the most sold book in that publishing company. In fact, they wanted me to write more books and, that whole thing. And I'm like, it did what it needed to. Yeah. But that book alone is the funnel, besides me coming on podcasts, whatever, to get people to come into it. But here's the thing is that I empowered that one person to be the head coach, right? He then in turn brings someone on to sell because he was selling everybody. He got that down. He learned it. He understands the system. Now we had somebody else sell it. And then he was the head coach, right? Whatever, and kind of being able to transition out of the sell and focus in on the other aspects of the business. When that happened, he became the president of the company. I was able to back out. Right. I consult my own company. And then the other person comes on and then he learned it. And now he's actually over the whole program, right? And it's like we do it cohorts and we have events and stuff like that. And so my whole time now is I just come in and I mentor people a few hours a week and I can spend the rest of my time doing The Chosen. It's just like you build building blocks. And the cool thing about it though is it's like if your goals are in line and they're very synergistic. So all I wanted to do is spend more time. And I made it clear to my team, this is what I want to do. Yeah. You're not going to get any more time from me than this. I need to get to that direction. Help me get to that direction. Help me know what I don't know. They're helping me put the plan together too. I tell them, I go, I don't know what to do. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? I mean, they are helping me putting my action plan together. And so I can walk away. So I can honestly say to take a very prestige agency that relied mostly on me doing consulting. I don't do any, I mean, I take a consulting call, but we have other consultants that come on. But the only reason I take a consulting call is because they'll pay me $1,000 an hour and it leads them into my coaching program, Great.
I love it. There's power in clarity. And I believe we have a saying, when the intention is clear, the mechanism appears. So when you get really clear and your intention becomes very clear, God shows up, right?
Yep.
And so and so there's power in that clarity clarity, right? But also intentionality and resolve.
The intentionality is so important.
It's really critical in the mechanism. Like God opens the doors. Man, this is so good. What the name of the book? And so
it's called The YouTube Formula.
The YouTube Formula. Yep. I see that on your YouTube videos. And where's the best place for people to buy that book?
Just Amazon. I mean, if you go to YT Formula, you get in the funnel. Yeah. But you can go on Amazon, and I mean, there's other ways for us to go from there. But yeah.
And what's the best way for people to follow you, to reach you? What is it? Maybe YouTube? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, like any social handle. Okay. I mean, mostly like if you want to DM me, it's probably like Twitter or like IG. But yeah, all the social handles, just my name. From there. So.
Okay. Great.
But you guys need to watch The Chosen. Like that. Like the reason why I'm here is just more of that. I think if you haven't seen it, just go find it anywhere. Like it's like one of the best pieces of content you could ever see. Even if you're not a believer or anything, it's just really, really good content.
Agreed. Very well done.
And I'd love people to see that too. And then two, if you ever want to nerd out on the business side, there's like, we live by the principles that you're teaching here. We really do. We're really trying to focus in on it. And it's more about surrendering your will, but not surrendering the gifts that God's give you, because God gave you those gifts for a reason, and you need to use those gifts.
Exactly. Love it. Well, Derral, I appreciate it. It's been an honor, and looking forward to seeing where this thing goes, seeing what you do and the impact that you'll have in this world. It's going to be massive, very massive. So
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.